Good morning, boys and girls. I wanted to do a little segment on gardening, and so I've put together a few little things. I'm out here in my yard, and there's the turtle pond behind me, the turtles in there, and this is a giant bush right here that's going to be flowering in a little bit, probably in a couple weeks. But right here, I have my garden bed that I've started, and I've been working the soil for a lot of years. And so I just wanted to show you a few of the objects in your kitchen that can then transfer easily to a segment of soil in your garden. So, first of all, this isn't from the kitchen. This is a piece of decomposing wood that's been in the yard, so it's gotten a lot of rain. And as you can see, I can just break it apart with my fingers, and so this wood becomes part of the compost. Compost is what's used to build soil and make it healthy. And the termites have really been working on decomposing this piece of wood. And so as I break it apart, I might come across the termite, but it's very soft and it does hold a lot of water. So I have a whole bowl. Here's a large chunk of the stump, and again, you can just snap it or start breaking it apart. And this is just leaving a piece of wood outside for a year and allowing the insects to decompose it and the water to fall on it, and it adds that layer that's called I believe that's called the green layer. So it adds the green layer to the soil. I also have banana peels. So again, anything that you typically would throw away as garden waste can be added to the soil. And if you want it to decompose faster, you can shred it, and then it'll become smaller pieces. So I have some old vegetables that are starting to rot, so I'm going to throw those in. I also wanted to show you, if you don't go and buy seeds, but you just want to start some plants and see what happens. This is some garlic that I had put in my windowsill. And as you can see here, it started laying down roots and it got its sprout coming up. Each of these are a little bulb for the garlic. And so this is actually a multitude of individual seedlings that have already started, and all I did for that was just leave some organic garlic in the window, and it started sprouting and getting ready to become a full plant. So I'm going to sit that down. This is an avocado seed. So my avocados, I like to toss the seed in the yard. And I'm going to go ahead, and this one's been absorbing a lot of water, so this is one of the largest seeds. And go ahead and snap it for you, open. And you can see this little seedling is started right there in the center. Now, avocados really don't grow natively to this area, so this would have to be really an indoor plant. It's a tree, and it would have to be growing indoors. I also have, just to show you, a tuber. And if you look very closely at all the little spots on the tuber, and you just let these sit in the dark, they'll start sprouting, and that can become a multitude of potato plants. It grows on a vine, but the tuber itself stores the energy for the seedlings to sprout. And so each of these eyes, this is called the eye, each of these eyes become its own seedling. And so I have my kitchen compost, which I leave there on the counter. So all my eggshells, scraps. This is an onion skin and coffee grounds. And so this is your green that you add to your compost pile. And I'm going to go ahead and take out the coffee filters. So that would be waste. Those would eventually decompose as paper products. So I'll leave those. And then I just go ahead and, if I can get this there so we can see the soil. And there we go. You can see, Miss Carday, it is something that you're going to get your hands a little dirty with, but that can be a great thing. So I just go ahead and put it all in there. Here's my wood chips that have been made. And if the chickens were out, they can't be out yet because they're too small to defend themselves, but if they were out, they would probably peck through this and eat some of the protein from the termites. And this has seeds still on it. This is a scrap from bell pepper, so who knows, I might plant that and when I'm mixing my soil and end up with some bell pepper. And if you're wondering, that's Oreo beside me. Hi Oreo, are you out here gardening with me? Oh yes you are. Oh, a kissy kissy kissy. So, and go ahead and put this right into the soil there. And then I have my daughter's garden shovel. So it doesn't matter, but you do want to kind of just turn it in. That cuts down on the problem with flies. So you just go ahead and mix it in. And then you can really take a look at the health of your soil. See if you come across any insects while you're digging. And that just lets you know your soil's alive. And that's a good thing because that adds all the nutrients to your soil. And so we're just, this is called turning the soil. So we just give it a turn. Again, if you want it to decompose faster, you can break everything up into littler chunks. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you is my onions that I started growing. Well, that's the shovel. Yeah, a shovel's always a good tool, right? So the onions right there that I just sprouted from my kitchen window and put them out here to plant. So these are 3 onions and a garlic. Still a garlic that's growing. And this behind me is a California poppy that planted itself, and this broadleaf plant right here is the hollyhock that also planted itself, and this is the wild chamomile, which I know you've seen before because that grows at the school too. And if we want this potato to grow, you just put it under the ground and cover it. So that's how you can increase what's growing in your garden based on actually some of the food you eat. Like Miss Carday likes to eat onions and garlic, and so to grow some is prudent to having a garden that I eat from, because that's stuff that I actually like to eat. And potatoes. I like fried potatoes and baked potatoes. So I just want to give you this little video on how to turn your waste that you typically would throw away, and how you can add it to your garden wherever that may be, and you just design a little spot and start putting materials in it and layering it. And it's quite amazing to see the stuff that will pop up. Like, who knows, maybe those bell peppers will take off. So, and now, as they say here in the garden, for phase 2, I will go ahead and read the next chapter of James and the Giant Peach. So we are on chapter 20. So when we last left off, they were all looking to James for a plan. "There is something I believe I might try," James Henry Trotter said slowly. "I'm not saying it'll work." "Tell us," cried the earthworm. "Tell us quick." "We'll try anything you say," said the centipede, "but hurry, hurry, hurry." "Be quiet and let the boy speak," said the ladybug. "Go on, James." They all moved a little closer to him. There was a longish pause. "Go on," they cried frantically. "Go on." And all the time while they were waiting, they could hear the sharks threshing around in the water below them. It was enough to make anyone frantic. "Come on, James," Ladybug said, coaxing him. I'm afraid it's no good at all," James murmured, shaking his head. "I'm terribly sorry. I forgot. We don't have any string. We'd need hundreds of yards of string to make this work." "What sort of string?" asked the old green grasshopper. "Any sort, just as long as it's strong." "But my dear boy, that's exactly what we do have. We've got all we want." "How? Where?" "The silkworm," cried the old green grasshopper. "Didn't you ever notice the silkworm? She's still downstairs. She never moves. She just lies there sleeping all day long. But we can easily wake her up and make her spin." "And what about me, may I ask?" said Miss Spider. "I can spin just as well as any silkworm. What's more, I can spin patterns." "Can you make enough between you?" asked James. "As much as you want." "And quickly?" Of course. "And would it be strong?" "The strongest there is. It's as thick as a finger." "But why? What are you going to do?" "I'm going to lift this peach clear out of the water," James announced firmly. "You're mad!" cried the earthworm. "It's our only chance. The boy's crazy. He's joking." "Go on, James," Ladybug said gently. "How are you going to do it?" "Sky hooks, I suppose," jeered the centipede. "Seagulls," James answered calmly. "This place is full of them. Look up there." They all looked up and saw a great mass of seagulls wheeling round and round in the sky. "I'm going to take a long silk string," James went on, "and I'm going to loop one end of it around a seagull's neck. And then I'm going to tie the other end to the stem of the peach." He pointed to the peach stem, which was standing up like a short, thick mast in the middle of a deck. That's a reference to a boat. That part of the boat that stands up that holds the sail. "Then I'm going to get another seagull and do the same thing again. Then another and another." "Ridiculous!" they shouted. "Absurd! Poppycock! Balderdash! Madness!" And the old green grasshopper said, "How can a few seagulls lift an enormous thing like this up in the air? And all of us as well? It would take hundreds, thousands." "There's no shortage of seagulls," James answered. "Look for yourself. We'll probably need 400, 500, 600, maybe even 1,000. I don't know. I shall simply go on hooking them up to the stem until we have enough to lift us up. They'll be bound to lift us in the end. It's like balloons. If you give someone enough balloons to hold, really enough, then up he goes, and a seagull has far more lifting power than a balloon. If only we have the time to do it. If only we're not sunk first by those awful sharks." "You're absolutely off your head," said the earthworm. "How on earth do you propose to get a loop of string around a seagull's neck? I suppose you're going to fly up there yourself and catch it." "The boy's dotty," said the centipede. "Let him finish," said the ladybug. "Go on, James. How would you do it?" "With bait." "Bait? What sort of bait?" with a worm, of course. Seagulls love worms. Didn't you know that? And lucky for us, we have here the biggest, fattest, pinkest, juiciest earthworm in the world. You can stop right there, the earthworm said sharply. That's quite enough. Go on, the other said, beginning to grow interested. Go on. The seagulls have already spotted him, James continued. That's why there are so many of them circling round and round. But they daren't come down to get him while the rest of us are standing here. So this is what... Stop, cried the earthworm. Stop, stop, stop. I won't have it. I refuse. Be quiet, said the centipede. Mind your own business. I like that. My dear earthworm, you're going to be eaten anyway. So what difference does it make whether it's sharks or seagulls? I won't do it. Why don't we hear the plan first, said the old green grasshopper. I don't give a hoot what the plan is, cried the earthworm. I'm not going to be pecked to death by a bunch of seagulls. You will be a martyr, said the centipede. I shall respect you for the rest of my life. And a martyr is somebody who gives their life for a cause, such as Martin Luther King Jr. So will I, said Miss Spider, and your name will be in all the newspapers. Earthworm gives life to save friends. But he won't have to give his life, James told them. Now listen to me. This is what we'll do. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 20 of James and the Giant Peach. And as we leave this chapter, a good question is, how is it that James is going to capture the seagulls using the earthworm as bait? What would you do? We know he has string. We know he has bait. How could he create a trap for the seagulls? Okay, and if you'd like to post your response in Google Classroom, that would be awesome. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Happy gardening! Happy spring!